All right, everybody, welcome back to Hot Route Takes. I'm Chase Owens with my co-host Brian Sarver and our good friend Christian Mills back from vacation. He is back. We have missed him. We have a few primetime football games to recap for you that went down in Week 3 after me and Brian last recorded. So we're going to get to that before we jump into the Week 4 preview. The first was the Sunday night game between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Las Vegas Raiders. Pittsburgh taking that one 23-18. Just what I saw in this game, I think Davante Adams, if it hasn't already been established, he's still him, no matter who's throwing him the ball. He's really good. And his comments after the game are going to be something to talk about here shortly. Other than that, Josh McDaniels being a bad head coach reared its head in my mind. I've never thought he was a good coach. And him deciding not to go for that fourth down and try to get a touchdown and a 2-point to tie the game was alarming to me. I don't know what you're playing for the fifth quarter, I guess. No. I don't know what the decision to do the field goal there was, but that really cost the Raiders any chance, as once Steelers got the ball back, they got that first down and the game was over. So Kenny Pickett played clean, no turnovers, whereas Garoppolo had the 3 picks, and that was the big difference in the game for me. And as I said, the post-game comments from Davante Adams saying that he's really good, he knows he's good, and he don't have time to mess around and lose football games was alarming to me, because I don't think Vegas has any path to success this season. So if they want to get some positive draft capital back, they might want to explore trading this man.
Yeah, I'm with you all the way. I'm not very confident in the Raiders' ability to win football games this year. I think they're just extremely limited on both sides of the football. I think the best thing they got going for them is this Davante Adams and Jacoby Myers trio. They've even struggled getting the ball going in the ground game this year. Josh Jacobs is off to a pretty slow start, and he had a pretty rough going in this game with 62 yards on 17 carries. That's 3.6 yards per carry. Just not a very inspiring performance by Jimmy G either. I know Christian has some thoughts on that. I'll let him touch on that. But then flipping to the other side of with the Steelers, I'm continuing not impressed with Kenny Pickett. I do not know that the Steelers should, commit to him long term. It's a long season. He's got time to turn it around, but he continues to not be very good. Najee Harris as well, not extremely productive. I know a lot of it has to go back to their offensive line, but just poor offensive showing by the Steelers, but their defense bailed them out again, and the Raiders just once again just not a very good football team. So
yeah, glad to be back. I'm gonna just start off with that. The vacation was needed. 0-2 is not a good place to be. Had to take a mental break, and I came back and my team got a dub. So maybe vacations might be in the new future if that happens again to my team. But like Brian said, I'm gonna start with the Jimmy G thing. I kind of pointed out today when I talked to him for a little bit is, for whatever reason, Jimmy G's been known for not make mistakes, but it just seemed like during that game, at least to me, I noticed whenever he was looking at his second read, it just incomplete pass or it was a turnover. And I think maybe that's something we need to look at in the future, but also, you don't need Jimmy G passing against this team 44 times in the Steelers defense. That's just not how you're going to beat this team. And then, with the whole Davante Adams thing, it's just, his comments is kind of, a red flag. And, other than the Raiders, I think a lot of teams are going to be able to double team him and lock him down. Then you're going to have to lean on some of your other weapons. And just, when is Josh Jacobs going to show up for what he kind of, set out for the offseason and wanted more money? When is that going to arrive? And then on the Steelers side, I will say, I don't know what it is, but this team, I'll give them credit. They are a second-half team. I'll at least say that about the offense. And then the other thing, my last thing is just, Najee Harris is just slow. Or is that just me? I look at this guy on the field, and it's just, it's just not what I, want to see in a, sad way. I was big on him at Alabama. Just at this point, I think you go Warren. It's just, it looks better. He's better pass catcher. You invested a lot in Najee Harris, but it's not what I want to see on the field at this point. And I just think if the Steelers, at this point, they got, they're winning games 2-1. You want to kind of ride this out and win some more games. I think Najee Harris not on the field is a good way maybe to start. I understand it still is early, but just last 2 seasons of Najee is just not what I want to see. And then last thing for real is just Kenny Pickett, no turnover is a good positive, but it is against the Raiders defense.
Yeah, I'd agree with you, Christian. Steelers, their bread and butter is going to be the defense in my mind. The offense has got such a low ceiling, especially in this division. I think there's a lot more high-powered offenses to win football games, but the Steelers can bank on that defense and just playing clean football to win. So that's what was the recipe against Vegas. Getting to the Monday night football games, we had two of them once again. The first was Philadelphia at Tampa Bay, a matchup of 2-0 teams. Albeit one was expected from us, the other not so much. Philadelphia took this one, kind of just handled it from the start. A 25-11 score. Jalen Hurts, 277 for a touchdown, but 2 picks as well. Swift, another big day on the ground, back-to-back weeks for him. A $130 on the ground, and A.J. Brown, a $130 through the air. Guys that they expect to get involved having good days. I don't really have much to say on Philadelphia's end no more. We know what they are. We know how talented that football team is. Tampa on the other side, the lack of any type of ground game really hurt them, and I figured it was coming because Baker wasn't as good as he's been the first 2 weeks on Monday night. He went 15 of 25 for just 146 and a pick. So I didn't really expect much of a different outcome, but it's kind of refreshing, I guess, to see that Tampa is who I think they are this early, and I would expect more of these performances if they can establish a ground game.
Yeah, I'm with you. This game went about exactly how I thought it would, honestly. The Philadelphia Eagles defensive line really controlled the front and dictated terms in this football game, and they were not able to run the football at all. Baker Mayfield kind of reared his old turnover where he played head, with one pick, a fumbled loss, not extremely productive to the air, which is to be expected. This Eagles defense is good, and it's in midseason form, I would say. Their offense is still struggling outside of DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift's been munching, man. I love to see it. I'm a big Swift guy. I never thought Detroit should have traded him, really, but it was a good thing for, I think, DeAndre Swift and the Detroit Lions, although yet to see the early returns on Jahmyr Gibbs, although I think he might be better than Swift. Swift played really well, and he is playing really well for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about the Eagles. I kind of have a different take than y'all on the Buccaneers at this point, but just on the Eagles side, I think just what is Jalen Hurts still doing at this point? I know the last time I was on the pod, that's something I talked about was just Jalen Hurts. I mean, Brian knows I was probably the biggest supporter, but just like right now, I'm just not seeing the Jalen Hurts that what I pretty much invested in and what I thought I was getting. But I will say after A.J. Brown and him talking on the sideline, it looked like A.J. Brown straightened out what the problem was. I mean, he had 9 for 131 yards. And then, kind of I think what this team's going to be is going to be A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, kind of switching roles is honestly what I think it's going to be. We seen him with only the 4 catches, 28 yards, but kind of just DeAndre Swift, but I'm gonna stand where I stood with this team last year. I just think any running back is going to be good, but I think Swift, this is kind of what he needed to resurge his career. Then the Tampa side, I will say Baker really wasn't that bad. I mean, I understand you look at the 15 for 25, but Mike Evans did have, at least 5 or 6 drops, and then it did start raining later in the game. So I don't point too much on Baker. I honestly think Baker would play a lot better if, like Chase said, if there was any sort of running game and he could maybe play off the play action. That's when he was successful in Cleveland. I mean, I just think Baker, low key, honestly, is playing pretty good this year. I mean, you can't hate it. And then I heard a stat the other day. I don't know how true it is. I think it was while I was watching the game. Baker's had 8 head coaches. 8. Already in his career. So I just think he hasn't had a consistent place, and I think maybe Tampa Bay can be that place, but they just have to do something with the running game or maybe go to the more shorter passes. But like I said, Baker had a great day, I think. He did have the 1 pick, but it was against a great Eagles defense, so something's going to have to give when he has no time in the pocket. And he was rolling out, buying time, trying to do everything in his power to win. I just think the score-wise would look a lot different if Mike Evans didn't drop the 5 to 6 passes.
I get that. I get that. And I'll be the first to say Tampa's already exceeding expectations early on for me. Baker, really the head of the spear really on that because he's been efficient the first 2 weeks. Last week he was up against a really good defense. So not going to penalize him for that. And we'll be looking out for his performances in the week to come. Moving on to the other Monday Night Football game, we had the LA Rams traveling to Cincinnati. It was a matchup of 0-2 Bengals team looking for their first wins and a 1-1 Rams team. And the Bengals defense really showed up and played well throughout the night and speared this victory because the offense is still struggling. And it's a surprise for me, especially the contract that Burrow was given and the weapons around him. I mean, I had him win an MVP at the beginning of the year. I really expected big things from this offense. I didn't think anything would be changing, and it's still slow to get going. First half, they just struggled to move the ball, and no big plays really to speak of. As the game went on, Jamar Chase got more heavily involved. He ended the day with 12 catches for a $141. So his involvement of the offense, I think, as he goes, this offense goes. So maybe they're trending in the right direction, and their performance enough was Monday night was enough to get them the win. So albeit may not be the process and the actual way of the game that they wanted it to go, but a win's a win in this league right now, and they desperately needed one.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty encouraging win if you are the Cincinnati Bengals, knowing how rough it's been to start the season, knowing Joe Burrow is not 100%, Jamar Chase being almost non-existent at times the last couple of weeks, really showed up big for him in today's game or in that game. And I think Cincinnati's defense played a major part in them winning this football game. And then I continue to be impressed with the Rams just being competitive despite having a really rough roster. And in my evaluation, Puka Nacua, of course, has taken the NFL by storm. Also, Tutu Atwell being involved and being a reliable playmaker for Matthew Stafford. He didn't have his best game in this game, but I think the limitations that the Rams have on their offensive line really got to him in this football game, and they were lighting him up all day. He got sacked 6 times in this football game with 2 picks. So that's not ideal, especially for an older quarterback like Matthew Stafford, who doesn't have a whole lot of mobility. So, and then no running game. So it was real tough for the Rams in this football game. I think if they had any semblance of a running game, or honestly, if they had Cooper Kupp, this thing could have been different.
Yeah, I'm going to start with the Rams. I just, kind of how good their coaching staff is. Something that blew my mind was they were, 1 for 11 on third downs. I mean, honestly, I think what's scary is if the Tutu Atwell touchdown doesn't get called back, I think this easily could have been a Rams win, but it's just after that drive, it's just they kind of stalled out every drive. It was a defensive game. They couldn't get anything on the run game, Tyler. Like you say, give Cincinnati defense a big shout out on that. This defense was supposed to be good, and they finally played their best game, I would say, in this one. The thing I kind of been beating the drum on, and then even now I'm kind of more worried about it, is Joe Burrow. I mean, this was a game time decision. He came in, and I think y'all all agree it doesn't look like Joe Burrow. I understand this guy's never had a big arm, but they were getting Jamar Chase in the game by just throwing it to him right at the line of scrimmage, and they were letting him do after the catch pretty much. And the calf, I think, is a bigger concern, and I'm kind of worried about Cincinnati at this point. And does Joe Burrow kind of need to sit out and really heal this thing, or is this going to be like an all-season thing where he's not 100%? And I just hate to break it to them, though. I mean, where they were going to go into the playoffs, they're going to have a healthy Joe Burrow on that side of the bracket to even have a chance to make it to a Super Bowl. So I just think if that's kind of their goal, it's Joe Burrow's got to come out. But we're going to make our picks today, and I'm not sure who off the top of my head they're playing this week, but their next 3 games are not easy by any means, and they kind of need Joe Burrow at this point. So just Joe Burrow's health, and I think they need to do something in Cincinnati for this running game. I mean, you have Joe Mixon. He's supposed to be a good guy for you. Then T. Higgins is a big question mark the last couple of weeks for me. I mean, like I said about Mike Evans, T. Higgins is in that same boat. I mean, he had some hit him in the chest, the hands, and just could not catch him. I don't know what's going on. So just me, Joe Burrow, the calf, Joe Mixon needs to get involved, and then T. Higgins, I think he'll fix it, but just Joe Burrow's my big thing at the Rams. The last thing I'll say is just, their coach is, forget the best coach in the NFL. I think you give him any wide receiver, and they're just somehow making plays out there. So I have to give him a shout out for, being one of probably the best wide receiver coaches in the NFL.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with everything you said. And to speak on the Joe Burrow injury, in an ideal world, I think Cincinnati would love to get him a week or two off and to maybe fully heal this thing. But with the landscape of the AFC, you drop 2 or 3 games in a row because Joe Burrow's trying to get healthy, then you could be on the outside looking in the playoff picture. Every other team in the AFC North's already started 2-1. Bengals already a game behind, and their 2 losses have come in division. So that's just a tough task to do. So I understand why he's going out there, although he probably isn't 100%. We will move on to our Week 4 game picks. We have a lot of good ones this week coming up. It'll start with the Thursday night football game, a divisional matchup between the Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers. Both 2-1 teams. This will take place in Lambeau. The Packers coming off that come-from-behind win against New Orleans, really back-to-back weeks. They dropped the one to Atlanta, so sorry. But Detroit, they looked really good last week, just especially on the defensive side of the ball against Atlanta, and they've pretty much answered the bell from what we expected coming into this year. Jahmyr Gibbs' usage went up last week, which was encouraging to see. So I kind of went back and forth, but overall, coming in this year, I thought Detroit was the better roster. I still think that. I think Aiden Hutchinson's been making plays this year. I could see it happening again Thursday night. And Jared Goff, man, I can't. He's slowly climbing up my QB rankings. I had him in that mid-tier coming into this year, but as he week to week he continues to make plays, hit guys, stay on schedule as the offense goes, and there's always 1 or 2 big plays in that offense every week, and I love that. And whether it's Amon-Ra St. Brown or the tight end Sam Laporta, someone's catching the ball deep, like wide open, and it's beautiful coaching and beautiful QB play from Detroit right now. So that's why I've got them winning this one.
That's sound reasoning. I think this game really comes down to injuries is a big part of it. David Montgomery being questionable. They are without their starting guard. I'm not going to try to pronounce this dude's first name. But Fatai, the right guard for them, he's an older player. And also their left tackle Taylor Decker is questionable for this game. So that's pretty important. And then on Green Bay side of things, 2 weapons, Aaron Jones and Christian Watson, being questionable, as long as David Bakhtiari, the tackle, being listed as out today, which is major. But I am going to go with Green Bay here. I've been impressed with Jordan Love so far this year, and I'm going to continue with that. And I think Christian Watson does play. It's been a hamstring injury that's kept him out the last couple of weeks, and I really think Christian Watson will elevate this offense, especially if they can also get Aaron Jones back. I think that would be great for this offense, and I think Matt LaFleur is just doing a great job scheming guys up. Ben Johnson, credit to him as well, the Lions offensive coordinator. He's done a great job as well scheming guys up. But I really think this one's one of the closer games to pick of the weekend, and ultimately, I'm going to side with Green Bay here just because of the simple fact I think their offense can get things going with Christian Watson and company.
Yeah, I kind of went back and forth, and just I can't get over the Detroit kind of love and the Gibbs. And then Jack Campbell had a big play last week right at the halftime buzzer. So, I'm going Detroit. I just think ultimately this is going to be the game where we see the real, maybe not the real Jordan Love, but kind of see a fall off this week, I think. Last week he did go, I think it was like 22 for 40 or something like that. And I just think if you're doing that against this Detroit team, that's not going to be how you're going to win this game. And I'll give Detroit credit. This D-line was not supposed to be good, and they kind of, I think are impressing a lot of people around the league and actually being a good defensive line. And I just think with how they're going to run this game and how they're going to play, I think it's just going to be, a Detroit way to win the game, and it's just going to be, I think, a running game possibly on the Green Bay side. I'm really not sure, just because, like Brian said, the injuries are key in this game to kind of determine how they're going to go about this game. But I just think this team they're tired of being the little brother, and they know this is their year. And if they do lose in Green Bay, that's kind of going to lose a lot of the momentum, a lot of hype that's kind of building up right now. So I just think Detroit and just Dan Campbell's not going to let it happen when he knows all eyes are going to be on his team Thursday night.
I like it, Christian. Yeah, on those injury reports for Thursday night games, I usually tend to play if they're questionable. I'm doubting they're going to play because you get a week and essentially 3 or 4 days extra rest if you hold them out that Thursday night game. But with this being a divisional one, you never know. It's obviously important for both teams. Moving on to Sunday slate of games, we have our first London game of the year. Of course, Jacksonville, always penciled in for one of those every year, will be the host in London against the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta 2-1 on the year, Jacksonville 1-2. Jacksonville really threw a stinker out there last week, dropped the game at home against Houston, whereas Atlanta's offense kind of struggled in Detroit, especially when you're leaning so heavily on Desmond Ridder beating a team through the air. So two teams that had lackluster performances, especially on the offensive side last week. I picked Jacksonville because I think their offense has more upside. I like them to bounce back. I trust Trevor Lawrence to bounce back. And if they get an early lead and neutralize Atlanta's running game and take that out of the equation, which I kind of think they will, I think that just bodes well for them. Whereas Atlanta will have a tough time playing catch up behind Desmond Ridder.
Yeah. So I really wanted to pick Atlanta here, but I didn't. I picked Jacksonville, and the reason why I picked Jacksonville is just because I think this Jacksonville team is just better than what they put on display so far through this year. Trevor Lawrence is not. People keep saying drops and this and that, but in my evaluation, at least, I think Trevor Lawrence has just been a tick late here and there. He's been trying to force some throws into coverage, and he's asking his receivers to make a hell of a play. That's really what it's been, and the receivers just haven't been coming up with it. What you would want to see some of them come down with those, because he's been giving them opportunities that he just hadn't been cashing in. Although it's not the most ideal situation for the receivers. I think Atlanta ultimately, if their defense is going to struggle to maintain Travis Etienne, Calvin Ridley, Evan Ingram, and Trevor Lawrence. I think they are just a year out from being truly the competitive team to go up against these guys like Jacksonville. I do think Bijan could get some stuff going on the ground. I feel like Jacksonville's a safer pick here.
Yeah, no, I'm going to lean with Joe. I think Jacksonville is kind of the better team, better roster, and at this point in time, just resume-wise, the better coach team. And I just think what we've kind of seen definitely out of Calvin Ridley, we've seen the big week 1, and then after that, he's kind of disappeared. But I promise you, they're playing Atlanta. This game's been circled all season. Like, this is the game he's probably been wanting to play the most. So I just expect a big day out of him. And just last week, none of their wide receivers did anything. Their best guy was Christian Kirk with 4 catches wide receiver-wise. Evan Ingram did a pretty good game, but just receiving-wise, no one got going against a Houston team. Doesn't make sense to me. But I will say, the last thing I kind of want to hit on with, Jacksonville is just, I think they did this last year. In reality, this is what they did. They started slow, and then all of a sudden, that's when the Trevor Lawrence hype and this team really got going. So I think from here on out, that's where my head's going to go with this team. I think this is going to be the week where they figure things out, and from here on, just move up. But, the Atlanta side, I think this will be a good fought game. But the only thing that kind of scares me is, like y'all said, the Atlanta defense. Is they going to be able to hold them to, if this offense does get going like I expect, then that's going to take out the running game, and then you're talking about Desmond Ridder. And I'm just still not sold on Desmond Ridder, so I'm not going to, definitely see quarterback matchup, Trevor Lawrence, Desmond Ridder. I'm going to definitely lean the side that Trevor Lawrence is, the head of him. So I got Jacksonville, and I think a pretty good win against this Atlanta team.
Yeah. Yeah, we're all in agreement there. As we move forward to the 1 o'clock slate of games, the first one, probably the game of the week for me. Probably most pundits in the NFL. You got Brian's 3-0 Miami Dolphins taking on the 2-1 Buffalo Bills, who have looked like one of the better teams these last 2 weeks in their last 2 wins. Miami will be traveling in this one. That's a big deal. But coming off a 70-point output, there's nowhere to go down but down. If you go up from there, good God, there'll be narratives about this offense for for years to come. But Buffalo's a really good team, and they're not the Denver Broncos. This is a different test for this offense. All that said, I think they're ready. And I'm picking Miami in this one, actually. I think it'll be a close game, and I still believe Buffalo's a really good football team, but the way Miami's offense is operating right now, I can't do anything but pick them. Tua's just operating quick, efficiently, making his reads, getting the ball out, and the play design. Some of these film sessions I was watching this week on Miami's play designs with the fake reverses and the shovel pass and the motion of Tyreek Hill as a decoy and all these things are just such beautifully schemed up stuff from Coach McDaniel. So I don't really have any other words to say about this offense until I see some teams slow them down, which I think Buffalo's got a good defense and has a chance to, but I don't think it'll be enough. And I still expect Miami to put up close to 30 points, if not north of that, and that'll be enough for a win.
Yeah, so I'm going Miami as well. And the reason why is structurally with the Buffalo Bills defense, I think they have no choice in this game but to play zone. They don't got the guys from an athleticism standpoint in the secondary to match up with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, who is supposed to be back for this football game. To man them up, I don't think they can do that. And the Chargers, I think, have a little bit more athleticism in the corner room, and they tried to do it, and then they just didn't stand a chance either. They do have a better defense than the Chargers, a large amount, but a lot of it has to do with the secondary being very experienced and knowing exactly what to expect, and their zone coverage just being really elite. All right. So that being said, I think this offense and Tua's strength as an anticipatory passer with accuracy, with the speed that we have, I think zone is just going to have you're going to have a rough time in it as well. I think that's really Tua's strength is throwing against zone, where just our speed makes it so hard to play man against us. So I right now I don't see a team stopping Miami's offense. So I'm going to go with Miami, and then on the other side of things, I think Buffalo, their defense is great. I don't want to take anything away from it. But they're going to have to score points in this football game, and I'm interested to see the matchup between Josh Allen and Miami after in the playoffs last year. Josh Allen struggled mightily against this defense. And Vic Fangio and company coming in, I'm sure they watched the film last year. I think we have a chance to really put the league on notice. I know we did last week, but this is a real Buffalo Bills team that everyone knows is good, and we're going to their place and playing in Orchard Park. If we come out with the W the way I think we will, man, the NFL will know. That's what I have to say. But I'm picking Miami.
All right. I went back and forth. I mean, I ain't gonna lie. Brian can definitely testify, and I know Chase has heard me give Tua the hate, but Tua has impressed me this year. I'll give him some love. He's throwing the ball before wide receivers even looking already. I'll give him his props, but they are 3-0. Buffalo's heard the noise. I know they are not liking this Miami noise they're hearing on that side. The defense are looking way better, and they thought it was going to look worse with, the defense coordinator leading, and now the head coach are calling the shots defensively. But, man, this is just one of those games, we get an upset every week, and I just think this is going to be the game that Buffalo finds a way, somehow gets it done. And I just think Buffalo's going to play smart football is how they're going to get this dub. I just think James Cook, that's who I think is going to have a big day. I seen when, the Chargers played Miami, how our running game worked, and it just seemed like no other team has kind of took that to advantage. And I think this will be where Buffalo kind of shows, they're going to expect us to give. Yeah, well, New England roster and Buffalo's roster, you can say what you want, but I just think this would be the game. And then definitely after week one, what we've seen that Josh Allen, I just think this is where he can shut all that down. This is the game where he can maybe show out. And honestly, I'm picking Buffalo more so. Just I think, y'all have to eventually lose one. I would hope so. And if it's going to be one, I can kind of see it being this game here.
Yeah. I mean, truly, probably the game of the week for everybody across the NFL. It's going to be a fun one to watch. 1:00. When we move on from that, we get to one of the more underwhelming games of the week. It's the 0-3 Denver Broncos against the 0-3. Yeah, you're not even gonna pay attention to Miami Buffalo. You're gonna watch Danger Russ and Justin Fields battle it out for their first win of the year. Yeah, I mean, if there's a game you can make a prop bet on a tie occurring, maybe this is the one, because these teams have been so bad to start the year. Denver was coming off that 70-point drubbing from Miami. Chicago just got beat down in Arrowhead in front of Taylor Swift and the whole nation. So it's been a whirlwind first 3 weeks for both of these teams, and both have looked pretty bad, or really bad. But someone's got to win this game, unless they tie, of course. I went with Denver because I think the offense has looked more sound and more complete these first 3 weeks. They've been in almost every game outside of last week. They put up points, but they were never in that game. But the first 2 weeks, they were in the game with Vegas. They were in the game week 2 with Washington. They had a big lead in that game. But the defense has really let them down, which is surprising. And I still don't think this is a good football team, but I think Russell Wilson and company will just outscore Justin Fields just enough to get their first win of the year.
Yeah, I think this game is actually going to be pretty close. I think with the Bears, at least, it's not all on Justin Fields, man. I did go look at it. Justin Fields deserves part of the blame, but I think if you were a offensive coordinator or head coach and you're coming into the situation and you saw what Justin Fields is capable of last year and what his body of work really speaks to, I think they just try to go completely away from what was working last year with some of the design quarterback runs and just kind of getting him loose and getting him in rhythm, because he has not been in rhythm at all this year. I think this is a good opportunity for Chicago to get him in rhythm. If it's not going to happen in this game, it's not going to happen. I mean, that's just kind of how I'm feeling. After I watched Miami kill him last week, it was rough. I mean, just poor defense from the Broncos. We played good, but man, you shouldn't ever allow 70 points. This is the NFL. This isn't college football. And that was just poor effort. Tackling, I mean, defensively, their game plan, I don't even know what they were trying to accomplish. It looked like they just played vanilla. And it was ugly from a lot of different point of views regarding Denver's defense. But I do think Justin Fields has a chance to get things going. I hope he does. But I do pick Denver in this game, and the reason why I do pick Denver in this game is because the offense is actually looking competent and better, like Chase said. I think this offense is actually the better unit of this football team at this point in time, which we never would have saw that coming based on last year, Denver's defense being as good as they were. This offense actually has been competent through 3 weeks, and it's only going to get better in my mind. You know, Sean Payton being a quarterback whisperer, if you will, and really revitalizing Russell Wilson and bringing him back to his strengths. I thought he played pretty well against Miami. We beat him up too. We were hitting him left and right, and I mean, he was making stuff happen. Of course, you know, they were never in the football game, but it wasn't him that lost him this game. I mean, there was punched fumbles and things like that from the receivers. It was not Russ fumbling, throwing interceptions, not getting anything going on the offense. The offense actually moved the ball a good bit, and I actually was marginally impressed with Russell Wilson in comparison to his couple last performances that I've seen.
Yeah, this is a tough one to pick, honestly. I sat here and, at times thought about getting a quarter out and just, calling Denver heads and Chicago tails, and then pick that way was a good way for me maybe to decide which team I wanted to go with. But, I thought back to both of the games last week and kind of leaned with what y'all said. Just last week, I mean, I understand Denver, what happened there, but at least the offense was doing something. I mean, there was at least something you could take from that game and say, look, we at least have one unit that decided to maybe show up and play for at least a little while. But just Chicago, it just looks bad right now. I don't know what it is. You can point fingers in a lot of places if you wanted to. That's just, I'm not going to point fingers at a certain player or coach, or that's for, other people to do. I just think just right now, I mean, KC defense is good. I think people are maybe sleeping on that defense a little bit this year. I will say that. And, I hate to say that as a Chargers fan, but their defense and their young corners are playing pretty great.
Yep.
But just, I look back at that game. I mean, Justin Fields didn't even have 100 yards. And I mean, I would think they would loosen up the defense a little bit with what the score was. You would think he would be able to do something.
No
But then
garbage
again, you just don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's play call, Justin Fields. It's just something that I kind of got to watch more of. But when games like this is happening, I'm just not going to turn the Bears kind of on and kind of just look back later and take some glances at the team. And I just think at the end of the day, I look at the rosters and just Denver's there way more than Chicago is. And I just think the weapons on the Chicago side, I mean, I understand what they say. They went and got him weapons. But Chase Claypool at this point, I don't even know if he's out there. If he is out there, and then the running game on Chicago side is non-existent. Just DJ Moore is either there sometimes or just double coverage and nobody's open. It seems like just not working against Chicago. So I'm just ultimately go Denver. Hate to say Denver because, like I said, Chargers fan, don't want to see them win a game, honestly. But just Chicago, I just think, God, it's looking bad right now.
Yeah, me and Brian touched on it last in the recap, Christian, and it's truly one of the hardest things to watch. The Jets offense and the Bears offense are so hard to watch right now. With all these other great 1 o'clock games, I will not be turning on Bears Broncos. I'll catch the highlights of that one. I promise that'll be fun. Moving on to the AFC North divisional matchup, we got my Ravens traveling to Cleveland in a matchup between 2-1 teams. Surely going to be a physical game. We know that. The winner of this will stay in first place in the AFC North, where the loser will drop to 2-2. The Browns picked up a big win last week against Tennessee, pretty dominant performance, whereas my Ravens had their first loss in the overtime loss with Indy last week at home. So tough one for me to swallow, but hopefully they can bounce back. And I'm picking them to bounce back in this one because for a lot of reasons, I think this offense is going to be a case of 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Now we're getting back to the 1 step forward this week. I expect more establishment on the run game outside of Lamar Jackson. He was the entire run game last week. And more Mark Andrews, please. He's really good. Use him.
Yes.
Especially over the middle of the field where he can pick up those 15, 20-yard chunk plays and not make you have to put together a 10, 12-play drive just to get in the end zone. Get bigger play. You've got weapons. Get big chunk plays. Make your life easier. Ravens just got to start making their bed, brushing their teeth, and doing the simple things. And I think the health, they've got 3 guys practice today that could be coming back this week. Ronnie Stanley and Linderbaum, both starters on the line, as well as Marcus Williams, who suffered that torn pec week 1, is already practicing again. There's a video of Marlon Humphrey today in the medical room saying Odafe Owe took the video, and he's saying this guy's like hyping him up playing week 4. I don't know how true that is because Marlon didn't practice today, so we'll see. But I think the return of these guys is a big lift to the team, and truly was 1,000 ways to beat yourself last week. I think the coaching staff will get that fixed and hammer those things down. Whereas Cleveland's offense is still struggling a bit to me to outscore a pissed off Ravens offense. No mistake, the Cleveland defense is balling, probably the best defense in the NFL so far these first 3 weeks. But I just have a tough time believing the offense with no Nick Chubb is going to outscore a motivated Lamar Jackson this week.
Yeah, I thought this was one of the most compelling matchups of the weekend too. I mean, with Cleveland's defense playing at the level that they are playing, Deshaun Watson kind of finding a form of himself last week, and Baltimore, filling out this new offense, clearly has a number 1 weapon in Zay Flowers, and it's just a matter of time of them trying to figure out how to utilize their weapons the right ways. And I'm going to pick Baltimore in this game. And the reason why I'm going to pick Baltimore is just because I think they're just a more well-rounded team at this point in time. I think they got more ways to beat you. I think Cleveland, they've been really just hanging on to games, and the defense has been bailing them out. I do think they took a step last week on offense, but they kind of had to prove that to me. I'm not a believer in Deshaun Watson. I kind of fully I'm sold that he's not the same player. But, he can change my mind if he continues to play the way he did last week. I think the absence of Nick Chubb, this ground game is going to struggle going forward. And so they're going to really have to lean on Deshaun Watson to score them points, and I don't know that that's going to happen. I have more faith in Lamar Jackson and them getting this offense going. However, I would like to see them involve Zay Flowers down the field a little bit more. It's been a lot of screens and quick passing. I know Lamar's strength as a passer is the downfield passing. I think they should be at least attempting some deep balls to Zay Flowers down the field. Let Nelson Aguilar and these other guys catch some of these shorter routes and target them, and maybe throw one up there. See if Zay Flowers can make a play. That's kind of my take on Baltimore's offense right now. And also, I'd like to see Mark Andrews being more involved. I know Chase said that, but I have him on a lot of my fantasy teams, and
there's not
so
many
far.
good, not many good production from tight ends. So yeah, you're not alone, man. I've got them too. I need some production.
Yep.
Man, this was another tough game for me to pick. I went back and forth for a while, but I looked at last week and a couple of the other weeks, and just I think Cleveland's defense is sound, it's there, and just I'm still in this boat with the Ravens offense. I mean, kind of scares me still. I mean, this is 2 weeks in a row now. Lamar Jackson's your leading rusher, and you played a Colts team with Connor Minshew, and somehow they came on top. And then, I mean, Zach Moss last week. I know I wasn't on the pod to say anything about that, but I think if Zach Moss can get going, I think Cleveland's not too worried about who's in their backfield at this point. Is where I kind of sat and really thought, I understand the Ravens had a lot of guys out, but just, I mean, how many guys are coming back in reality? I just think at this point, I'm just leaning more towards Cleveland just because their wide receivers have had more bigger games at this point than the Ravens. Just Deshaun Watson, that's the only thing that scares me on the Cleveland side. I mean, love the guy. I have been big on the guy since, y'all can say what, true or false, allegedly. I just think Deshaun Watson, at this point, is kind of the only thing that can make them lose this game. I just think if they play Cleveland ball, defense plays great. I don't think Lamar is going to be able to run around like he has been these last couple of weeks against this Cleveland defense. And then if that's the case, then your running game probably is not going to exist behind Melvin Gordon and Gus Edwards. I mean, hate to say it, but just that's where I'm kind of sitting with the Baltimore. I think if this will be the game, I'll be honest with you, Chase. If y'all do something to this game offensively and get this win, I will respect the Ravens offense a little bit more. I just can't. I hadn't seen it yet besides Lamar. I mean, that's just honest. Zay Flowers, I'll give him his flowers. It's the Zay Flowers and Lamar Jackson show on offense, and that's it. Yeah, and that's why I just cannot get behind it at this point. I just believe more in Amari Cooper. Elijah Moore's done show some flashes. David Njoku. I just believe more on their weapons than y'all's weapons at this point. I understand that y'all have probably one of the best tight ends, but y'all have one of the best tight ends, but just hasn't gotten involved in the offense, and David Njoku has gotten involved. It's kind of where I kind of planned it, and I was just like, Lamar can only take so many more runs and pass like he's been passing. I mean, he did good in the Colts game, but that Colts defense, I think, is overperforming, a lot of people say, but just I think Cleveland's just at this point the better defensive team, more healthy. Other than Nick Chubb, I just think after seeing Zach Moss do what he did against y'all, I'm just leaning more towards Cleveland.
Okay, that is fair. It's pretty split down the middle. I think Ravens are favored in this game. Right now it's about a 60-40 split in the pick'em, so it's pretty close to fair. I would expect a close game. These two teams usually play to a close one. So don't really necessarily disagree with you. I could have picked Cleveland myself, but I just think we'll be a little motivated after that game they really should have had. But, NFL, those type of losses will happen. We'll move on to the other AFC North team, the Cincinnati Bengals, coming off their first win on Monday night. They'll be traveling to Tennessee, who lost to Cleveland last week in a dreadful offensive performance, probably the worst of the week, just 3 points down in Cleveland. Testament how good the Browns defense is playing, but also the flip side, how bad this Tennessee offense is when Derrick Henry doesn't get going. Tannehill looked good week 2, and then he took another step back. Me and Brian touched on this. Many more of these performances, he will not be starting much longer. I went with Cincinnati. They're pretty overwhelming favorite in this one. And although this offense has started slow and the defense is kind of carrying the load right now, I would expect the offense to pick things up this week. Jamar Chase really planted his foot in the ground and got upfield and wreaked havoc on the Rams defense. I expect more of that against Tennessee secondary and Joe Burrow. As long as he's staying healthy and not getting put on the ground too much, which can happen with the Bengals O-line, I think they'll be fine and take a comfortable W in this one.
Yeah, I went with the Bengals as well. I think all the way out in Tennessee now, and it's only a couple weeks into the season, and I've seen what I needed to see. They made Deshaun Watson look like Deshaun Watson again, and that has been pretty rough to do. And then on the other side of things, Ryan Tannehill got sacked 5 times. They had 26 yards rushing on 15 attempts. And D-Hop, I mean, you can only do so much for a team, really. And Ryan Tannehill, his flaws continue to show up. His lack of pocket mobility, his lack of creativity. He's very structural player. He needs that run game. He does. He needs it, or you're going to get this. This is Ryan Tannehill without a run game. It showed up, and I mean, I know Cleveland's defense has been playing good, but geez, man, this is it was pretty pitiful. And so I think this is a good opportunity for the Bengals offense to just really get in rhythm. And because, so much of their offense is predicated on being on the same page with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and getting the ball down the field, letting these guys win these one-on-one opportunities. And I think they'll get that this week. I'm going to go Bengals big.
Yeah, God, can't believe. Never mind. Well, I'm not going to go there. I'm out on Tennessee. I understand they did what they did to my Chargers, but God, I just can't get behind this Tennessee team. It's just like kind of what Brian said. I'm not going to beat the drum too hard, but just if Derrick Henry isn't going and it's on Ryan Tannehill, it's not going to happen. I mean, we've seen this Rams team that's kind of been running the ball against everybody they've been playing at least decently, and Cincinnati shut that down. So I just think this is going to be another slow day for Derrick Henry, and then you're going to be leaning on Ryan Tannehill. And just even if Joe Burrow's not 100%, like I kind of been saying a lot of on this pod, just I think kind of what we've seen last week, what they did, just Jamar Chase catch it right at the marker, and he can beat this Tennessee team kind of with him and Joe Mixon, and maybe T. Higgins can get involved this week. And then I think that'll be enough to beat this team. So we just seen Cincinnati's defense is, I ain't going to say equal to Cleveland's, but they're good enough to get Tennessee where they're not going to be able to do what they want to do. So I just think this is going to be another rough showing out of this Tennessee team. And maybe next week we can see a new starting quarterback for Tennessee. Maybe. Probably not. But if I was Tennessee after losing this one, I would maybe start thinking about it.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement on what Tennessee is at this point. 3 weeks into the season, we're not really predicting much change there. Moving on to the LA Rams traveling to Indy. Quick shout out to you, Christian, for calling Indy how you saw them and really expecting good things from this team, because you saw the defense having Shaquille Leonard back and being a sound unit that side of the ball. And the offense has just played clean, well-coached football. Anthony Richardson was out last week against my Ravens with a concussion, but hopefully he can play this game again, because the early returns from Anthony Richardson, Christian's favorite rookie QB, has been very promising, maybe the best when he's been on the field. The dual threat and the precision he's passing the ball with and getting guys involved. Great things from the Colts so far. That said, I went with LA in this one. I'm not sure what the starting quarterback situation is. That's kind of one deterrent for me. I still think the Colts are limited on offense right now, which is concerning to me. And I think the Rams' upside on offense is pretty strong, especially with no Cooper Kupp. If they get any kind of production out of the ground game, I think Matt Stafford has a big day. And the Colts defense is playing sound, but these weapons that no one had heard of entering this year are just putting up back-to-back-to-back great weeks and production. And I don't really expect that to change against this Colts secondary. So I've got the Rams winning probably a close one, because the Colts are well coached. They'll fight hard, but I think the Rams pull away late and maybe win a 2-score game.
Yeah, I think both of these teams are pretty evenly matched, really. And that's with the Rams having a big leg up in coaching and quarterback position. But I went back and forth on this. I know Anthony Richardson practiced today, so there's a good chance he does play in this football game, which is a good thing. I would like to see him get some more reps. Quentin Nelson is questionable, though, and I think they're going to have a hard time dealing with Aaron Donald, man, in this game. Aaron Donald wreaks havoc every time he steps on the football field, and you got to be aware of him. So I'll be interested to see how this game plays out. I am picking the Rams just because I have faith in Sean McVay scheming up some touches and getting Matthew Stafford going early, and I don't think the Colts defense has enough to really slow down the offense if Matt Stafford gets in a rhythm.
Man, I will say I'm surprised with the Rams. And then, like Chase said, I've kind of rode this Colts team this offseason and kind of, definitely when the Anthony Richardson draft pick happened, that's made me kind of maybe jump on their train a little bit more. But what both teams did kind of last week, I'll give them both credit, but just this Rams defense, other than Aaron Donald, still scares me. And then on the Rams side, you're depending on a lot of young weapons. And then this Colts team's coming off of an overtime thriller with the Ravens. So I think they're going to be coming in this game pretty high. And kind of a game a lot of people probably think they weren't going to come out on top of. And then you're telling me Anthony Richardson is practicing this week, or not this week, but today. And I just think if he is a go, I think he will be involved in the running game. That's kind of what they've shown their hands already this year. And I think if they get that going, that's going to maybe then you get Pittman going on some of these young corners they have over there on the Rams side. I just ultimately really like what the Colts are doing at this point, and I understand the coaching staff, and I'll be the first to say I love the Rams coaching staff, but the Colts coaching staff, I will give them credit. A lot of people didn't see this and kind of had questions on what was going to happen over there, but I just think at this point they're going to win this game somehow, some way. I think Anthony Richardson is going to be the key point on how they win this game. I just think his mobility, getting him out the pocket, and we've seen like Baltimore really couldn't get that much going in the passing game, and if they can do that to the Rams, Matthew Stafford doesn't have what Lamar has in his legs, so then I think they can really shut this game down with the Colts defense. Surprisingly, I know going into this season, I think they have, I know at least 2 starting corners that have never got a snap in the NFL. And them guys, I will go ahead and shout out. They've been playing excellent. So I just think this can be kind of the game, icing on the cake. The Colts will be, 3-1 after they win this one and maybe possibly be winning their division. So I just think, I hope they kind of do, honestly, but I just think they will just with Anthony Richardson returning and how great they've been with him on the field.
Yeah, I like it. Just well played football from Indy so far these first 3 weeks. I really don't expect that to change with the coaching and how well prepared they've been. So that'll be a fun one to watch. We'll move on to the NFC South matchup in this 1:00 slate. We've got the Tampa Bay Bucks and the New Orleans Saints, both 2-1 teams, both coming off losses last week. Tampa Bay Monday night to the Eagles, whereas the Saints let a 17-0 lead against Green Bay slip through their hands. Derek Carr did exit that game with shoulder injury. He's listed as questionable, so obviously a big factor in this ball game. If Derek Carr plays, I think I'm 100% on the Saints. Even with Jameis, I kind of see it as a flip-flop game. I'd probably lean Tampa, but just for the sake of it, I'm going to stick with New Orleans and pick them at home to maybe get a Baker turnover or two. This defense has been playing really good. Some of the best performances in NFL across on the defensive side these first 3 weeks. They've been getting turnovers frequently, and the secondary is playing really good. And if you want a matchup to watch this week, Mike Evans versus Marshawn Lattimore always ends in a fight. So that's like worth the price of admission right there when you watch this game. I'll be looking forward to watching that matchup as always. And as great as Mike Evans is, I think the Saints defense will come out the victor in this one.
Yeah, after watching last week's game against Green Bay and just watching this New Orleans Saints offense once Derek Carr went out, I was just not inspired would be a good way to put it. And so I am going to side with the Buccaneers just because if Derek Carr does play, he's not going to be healthy. It's not going to be the same Derek Carr. And so I think Tampa Bay, with the defense that they've had and the offense being, somewhat functional. It has been with Baker Mayfield at the helm and these weapons on the outside. They've been winning, and credit where credit's due to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and this coaching staff, allowing Baker to be the best version of himself. And I think this is a game that they can maybe steal. I'm gonna go with the Bucs.
Never thought I'd hear Brian go with Baker Mayfield. It kind of went back and forth, and I ain't gonna lie, both these quarterbacks, if it is, crab leg, Jameis, both of them have my hearts, man. I don't know what it is, just both of these guys, man. I just love both of these guys, Baker Mayfield and Jameis. So, I mean, I kind of went back and forth a lot, but then, I did think, Alvin Kamara is coming back. So I wonder how big of a key that's going to be in this matchup. But I just think I can't get sold with a Jameis Winston, Alvin Kamara. I will give a huge shout out for Chris Olave. I mean, this guy's their offense playing the best out of all of them, which he should be. I just think he needs some more help other than him, and I like what I'm seeing out of this Bucs team. I know I kind of hit on that earlier in the pod, and it's just with the running back injuries on the Saints, and then you having Alvin Kamara coming back for his technical week 1, and then if Derek Carr plays not 100%, I mean, honestly, I think this game will probably maybe be closer if Jameis Winston played than the Derek Carr, honestly, at this point where I'm sitting, just because it is a shoulder injury, and this defense for Tampa is going to try to get to him if he is in the game. And then, I mean, my big thing is I kind of thought back to last week. I understand it's only 1 week. You can't go off of that. But just Green Bay didn't really have a running game. And Tampa, that's kind of been their kind of problem this year. And Green Bay ultimately did win that game. And just with their weapons they have in Green Bay, I just like what Tampa has wide receiver-wise a lot better than what is in Green Bay right now. Without Christian Watson, you throw Christian Watson in there, then that wide receiver room is probably a lot closer. But I just think Mike Evans and then Godwin – Baker really hasn't tried to blow a game away unless, that Eagles game, he really didn't have a choice but to kind of turn the ball over because they were taking shots and he had no choice. So I just think this is going to be a statement game for Tampa. A lot of people wrote them off. I understand the offensive line is terrible. It's not that great, but just other than the O-line, everything else is kind of there for Tampa. And I just think with Jameis Winston, last time he was in Tampa or seen Tampa colors, it was 30 interceptions. So if he's starting, that even scares me a little bit more, but I just think Baker Mayfield and that tough loss, this is their big bounce back right after that loss.
I like it, man. A couple of division rivals setting off with, like you said, one of the more fun QB matchups of the week. Especially if Jameis goes, he's a hot mic quote machine that just breathes good content every time he talks. So, moving on. We got the 3-0 Eagles at home against their division rival, the 2-1 Washington Commanders, coming off their first loss of the year. The Eagles, I'm not going to spend a lot of time because Commanders, good on y'all for beating who y'all had to beat or supposed to beat the first 2 weeks, but you're severely outmatched here. I think the Eagles front seven dominate. Get after Sam Howell, who went down a lot last week. I would kind of expect more of the same in this one. And just the Jalen Hurts-led offense to kick it in gear a little bit more. Run game's been fine, but I want to have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith have good days on the same day simultaneously. It's not flip-flopping back and forth each week. I think they probably get a little closer to that this week and take a comfortable win at home against Washington.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Eagles as well, and I think the biggest thing is what you said, Chase. The front seven of the Eagles getting after Sam Howell is going to be the story of this football game. You saw what Buffalo did last week. I believe they stacked them 9 times. 9 times.
9, yes.
And, Washington's asking Sam Howell to be a dude, and then so he's going out there, he's trying to make stuff happen, and I just don't see it happening against this Eagles front.
Yeah, I'm going to just start where y'all kind of put it right there. It's just, 9 sacks, 4 interceptions. I seen that performance. I'm sitting there Monday night before the game come on, looking at the pick'ems. Who am I going to pick? And then I seen this, and I go, you got to be kidding. I thought it couldn't get worse for this team, and this is what they're running into. So very quickly, I clicked the Eagles just off of seeing what the Bills did to this offensive line. So, sorry, Washington Commanders fans, but this is going to probably be a rough one. You thought last week was rough. I just think, if you think 9 sacks was bad, I cannot wait to see what Jordan Davis, I mean, I'm not going to go down that list. I'd be talking for a while. Just all those guys on that D-line is going to have a day. So some way, somehow you got the Eagles defense in fantasy. God, you're a smart man.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more, Christian. That is one of the more lopsided matchups of the week. So expect some heavy coaching on the Washington Commanders offensive line unit to get some help from tight ends, running backs galore, because if not, Sam Howell's going to be in for a day. Uh, Moving on, we've got the other two 0-3 teams. We had that matchup earlier with the Broncos Bears. One of those has to win. This is the other two 0-3 teams. One a bit more surprising, whereas the 0-3 Panthers was kind of be expected. I don't know if Bryce Young's coming back this game. He was out last week against Seattle. They'll be at home against Minnesota. Minnesota's been right in every game they played so far, but ultimately fell short each one. I think this is the week they changed that. Jordan Jefferson has been right at 150 yards for the first 3 weeks. Each week, he was at 149 last week, so if he had got one more yard, he had set the record for the first receiver to have 150 in the first 3 weeks. What more can you say about him? He's really, really good at football. I'll leave it there. I think he has another really, really good day at football. And Minnesota puts up points. And right now, I don't see Carolina's offense matching any type of high point production, even if it's Bryce Young back there, because the wide receiver room still just leaves so much to be desired.
Yeah, I was hoping Bryce Young was going to get it to play in this football game. I don't know that he will. I know he's listed as questionable right now, and he did practice today. But just to see him go up against his Brian Flores practice squad defense over there in Minnesota and see what he can get going offensively. I do think with Andy Dalton in the starting lineup, they have an opportunity here to keep this game close. I just have zero faith in Minnesota's defense, man. And I think they'll put up points all day, every day, because that's what Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson do. But I am going to pick Minnesota here. But I would not be surprised if this game was close.
Yeah, I kind of went back and forth. I seen Minnesota, watched the whole Chargers game, and they blitz more than any team I've ever seen in the NFL, which that is going to be what his resume is, which I understood. I just didn't think, out of all quarterbacks, you're going to do that to Justin Herbert. I think that's just, he showed in the past at Oregon that quick throws he can do. So then I seen this matchup and just, if it is Bryce Young or is it Andy Dalton, this offensive line had struggled. And honestly, if the Chargers offensive line hasn't been has been this great. If our offensive line was anything like this offensive line, I just think the Vikings are going to get to whoever the quarterback is this week. Honestly, if I am the Panthers, I'm not wanting Bryce Young out there just because, I seen what they did last week to Justin Herbert, which granted they couldn't get to him, but still, I think the average throw was like 2.7 seconds or something like that. So I think you want a veteran in there like Andy Dalton to even have a chance. I'm leaning more towards Brian. Just if they do have a chance, it's kind of behind Andy Dalton, which is kind of sad to say, but just the Vikings defense is just they know they don't have much, so that's just he's gonna blitz. And then on the Panthers side, it's just this defense that I had very high hopes in just has not been the defense I thought they were gonna be. Then Miles Sanders, kind of been what we all kind of knew he was going to be, not in front of an Eagles offensive line, not that great. And if we've seen in the past when a running back get paid, it just doesn't turn out. And then, I understand you were playing catch up, but this guy didn't do anything last week for the Panthers, really. He had a couple passes caught, but I just think, I will say Adam Thielen, I'd be interested to see what he kind of, pregame, how he's acting towards his game, saying he is from Minnesota, been a part of that team, but ultimately, I think he's going to be seeing Minnesota walking away with this W.
Yeah. Hopefully Bryce can get back healthy. I think that's my main concern with Carolina this year is just seeing him take some steps with what he's working. Poor guy, I feel sorry for him, but hopefully he's on the field soon. Moving on, we've got the 2-1 Pittsburgh Steelers traveling to Houston to take on the Houston Texans, who just come off a big win against Jacksonville on the road. C.J. Stroud, he's been the one quarterback that's been on the field each week, a rookie quarterback that is, and he's looked the part every single week. He's gotten better every single week, and last week was his best performance in Jacksonville. Just great stuff from Houston. The defense finally looked better last week as well. And I was so close to picking Houston. There's always an upset every week. I wanted to make Houston mine this week because I just love what I'm seeing so far from this team. But I think the Pittsburgh defense is a totally different test for any quarterback, let alone a rookie. I would don't get discouraged from this, Houston fans. I think a bad performance is coming, but by no means do I think C.J. Stroud's going to take that and just spiral. I just think that much of Pittsburgh's defense. I think he'll get hit around and hit hard this game, and T.J. Watt will have a day, especially against this line, and he might wear it this game, but by no means do I think he'll spiral from that. I think Houston's still in for a pretty good year. Especially from CJ and what we've seen so far. Give me Pittsburgh.
All right. Yeah, looking at these two teams, I think I'm going to go with Houston. And the reason why I'm going to go with Houston, it's my upset of the week for sure, but I just think they need to score enough. I just don't believe in this Pittsburgh offense, man. And I think if you can score 24 points, you can win this game. And, that's not an easy task against Pittsburgh's defense, but I've been really impressed with C.J. Stroud. I think his weapons, a lot of people talked about how he didn't have the weapons he needed for a young quarterback to come in and succeed. But, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, and Robert Woods have been pretty good for C.J. Stroud, and they've been getting things rolling. I don't know that they'll, light the world on fire or anything like that, but I think they could squeak out a close game against Pittsburgh. Maybe we see a Will Anderson sack or two. Maybe. I'm going to go with Houston.
Man. I kind of, thought immediately to kind of what Chase said, just the offensive line for Houston. I understand there's a lot of random pieces making it work with all the injuries on the offensive line. And then kind of what you said about Mark Andrews. When I think of Houston, I think of Dameon Pierce. This guy was supposed to be, this great running back for them, had a decent year last year, and just has not been nothing this year for this team. And that's kind of what I was hoping he would do, have a good performance. But last week, Devin Singletary only had 9 touches, 41 yards, and Pierce had 14 for 31. And that was against a Jaguars team. Now you're playing up against a Pittsburgh defense. So I just think, kind of with Chase, I just honestly think this is a Pittsburgh game to win just because of T.J. Watt. Going to get to the quarterback. C.J. Stroud, I don't think he has an interception yet. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he doesn't. So, hate to say it, but I think this is the week that happens. I just think T.J. Watt, heck, he's going to be back there so quick, so fast. A lot of people are going to think he's on the wrong side of the field and maybe playing halfback for this team because I just expect him to get back there very quick. C.J. Stroud better be hoping he can dodge and run, kind of what we've seen him kind of have to do at this point. But I don't think he's outrunning T.J. Watt. So I expect T.J. Watt to have a field day, big day, kind of, go on his defensive MVP push this week. And I just think, we've seen the Raiders with a Devontae Adams who kind of had a field day, and that wasn't enough. And now we're looking at Tank Dell, Robert Woods, Nico Collins, and thinking that's going to get the job done. Not on this Pittsburgh defense and a Mike Tomlin team. I just think Mike Tomlin's going to coach this team up and make this rookie quarterback kind of look like a rookie quarterback against this Pittsburgh team.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Christian. We'll move on. We've got just 3 4:00 games to get to this week. The first is Christian's Chargers at home against the Las Vegas Raiders. As Christian mentioned something earlier with Minnesota's defense and how quick Herbert was getting rid of the ball on them, me and Brian touched on that in the recap. It was his quickest time to release at post-snap since he's been in NFL, and put together one of the most amazing stat lines and days from the quarterback group last week. I really expect more of the same. Herbert's really got the offense clicking, although they had a huge blow. I'll let Christian touch on this first. Mike Williams, torn ACL, out for the year. Significant loss, but I expect that's what you drafted Quentin Johnson for. That's what you've had Josh Palmer stashed for. I think one or two of those guys will be stepping up throughout the rest of this year to provide that help to Keenan Allen and company. And I don't really expect – I know Mike Williams is a great player, but I don't expect the Chargers offense to slow down a whole lot. I just want to see the ground game get back what they were week 1, and I think they'll take off from there.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Chargers as well. I think you look at this game. For me, if the Chargers do not blow them out, I have concern because Jimmy Garoppolo's in concussion protocol. He may not play in this football game, and if that's the case, I really don't like their questions. Not only that, but Max Crosby is now questionable, and that is a big time loss for that defense because that is really all they got. And so, if Chargers and company cannot find a way to stop this offense, what in the heck is going on? Because that would be a big time question because they don't got anything. They got Josh Jacobs, and they've been struggling to get him going. I think the Chargers should win big in this football game. I will say Justin Herbert played a phenomenal game last week, but boy, did he get lucky at the end there. Boy.
We don't believe in luck. We don't believe in luck.
Lucky, boy.
All right, man. I guess, kind of Chase left the door open for me, so I'm going to talk about it. The Mike Williams injury, hate to hear it, but like Chase said, I think the Quentin Johnson was a prep for if Keenan Allen or Mike Williams went out. As a Chargers fan, seen it, and I mean, all people have seen it. Every year, it seemed like one of those guys, if not both of them guys, go out and get hurt. And I just think, kind of with what y'all said, I'm going to pick the Chargers definitely to win this game, and definitely hearing that Max Crosby might not play or Jimmy G. But my big thing is, I mean, we still have Keenan Allen, and then even without Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, we're getting led by DeAndre Carter and a Josh Palmer last year, and the offense was still going, and now we have a better OC. So I'm not too concerned with. I mean, I am Mike Williams, big guy, big target for us. I mean, makes plays. We've seen the trick play with him and Keenan Allen last week, so I think it is going to hurt, but I think the Chargers were prepared for this. I mean, I think they done seen the injuries to the wide receiver room and finally got something right and got better options than DeAndre Carter and what we seen last year on the field. So my only concern, as a Chargers fan, is honestly Josh Jacobs. Could this be the game where he explodes? Because, the running problems we had in the past. And then, I mean, Devontae Adams played against a great Pittsburgh defense, and they stopped them just enough to not lose the game, I guess is a good way to put it. So, I mean, my only concern is one of these two guys are probably going to have a big day, but we cannot let both of them. To then, that's what Brian is saying. This game's going to be a lot closer than it should, and then people are not going to – I think either way, if both of them get going, we're going to win, but just we at least have to show some dominance somewhere on the defensive side, and I think this is the week that we can finally do it. And I just think Herbert and the offense, at this point, we're just clicking so much. I just think if it is a shootout, we still have a great chance to win games.
Yeah, I'd agree with you there, Christian. Hopeful that 0-2 start has been flushed by this team and they can just ride the momentum they created last week and get a good win streak going. That would be nice to see for your Chargers. Moving on to the 4:25 kickoff in Dallas, but we'll have the New England Patriots traveling to Jerry Jones Stadium and taking on a Cowboys team that's coming off a bad upset loss to Arizona last week. The Pats are coming off their first win of the year against the Jets, albeit that was the defensive slugfest we thought it would be. Two teams that I think have a pretty obvious roster talent scale gap, whatever you want to say about it. I really believe in Dallas and what they have. That said, each week there's an upset. We saw 3 of them last week. I have to kind of find one of these each week. For some reason, I'm picking New England, and I think the Cowboys are motivated and well prepared for this game, but I'll just kind of have a feeling Bill Belichick will have something schemed up on the defensive side to keep this one low scoring. And Dallas's secondary worries me without Trayvon Diggs after seeing what Arizona did last week. I want to see what that looks like this week against Mac Jones and company, albeit not the strongest competition in that department, but I think New England can score enough points if they get a ground game established and Mac Jones just finds a big play or two somewhere up his sleeve. And for that reason alone, I've got New England pulling up the upset in Dallas.
All right, Chase. I didn't see that one coming. I am going to go with Dallas here. I expect them to bounce back, man. They were just so dominant first couple weeks of the season. For whatever reason, just did not show up to play against Arizona. I can't explain it. I mean, you would look at the talent. I mean, it's just mind blowing to me, man. I just cannot wrap my head around how they lost that football game against Arizona. Credit to Arizona though, but we're not here to talk about Arizona. Dallas, I expect them to rebound. I expect Dak to rebound. Yeah, I'm just gonna go Dallas here. I just think New England's too limited offensively, and their defense, although it's good, I don't necessarily think it's great.
Yeah. This is another close game for me. I kind of went back and forth, and I thought about a lot of that Arizona game, but I can't live off of one game. But just Arizona, I don't want to speak too much. Last week I didn't get to say anything, but just they rushed for 222 yards, and I just think that's right up New England's alley. They want to run the football, so I really went back and forth for a while, and just the injuries on Dallas side, and then what we seen out of CD Lamb last week, and now you're telling me that the best rookie corner. I will give Brian some praise. He called it. Give him his flowers now. That's probably the best rookie corner right now, easily. And then you're telling me he's going probably to match CD Lamb, I would think, this game. So, I mean, CD Lamb was 2 for 9 in an Arizona game. And I think against a New England defense, I think this offense is going to struggle. I really do. And I know the Cowboys are going to want to run probably in this game, and I just think it's not going to be there. They're going to make Dak Prescott be the reason to beat them, and I just think that's not going to happen against this New England defense. I think this game is going to be a lot of turnovers on the Dallas side, and with that being said, I think it'd be a Bill Belichick win, just a Bill Belichick way, just hard defense, control the clock. So I'm surprised Chase went New England. I already knew I was going that direction, and then when I heard Chase, it just made me even more excited for my pick. I'm glad I'm not the only one maybe going this route, but I will say, my last thing is that Mac Jones, you need to keep your hands to yourself. Maybe, don't grab Jerry Jones like you do on my boy Sauce Gardner, but we're going to save that for another day. But I'm going to pick you this time, Mac, to win the game, but just you're going to be like Deshaun and probably get some letters in the mail.
Yeah, Mac Jones, the Grayson Allen of the NFL right
He
now.
really is. He really is.
Dude's a menace.
Menace to
He's
society,
a menace.
bro. Yeah, interesting. I wasn't expecting anyone to go with me there, so I appreciate the support, Christian. You got to find an upset. There was 3 of them last week, and there's going to be one in this one. It's probably going to be not that one, and who knows, maybe this next one. If it's this next one, I'm flying out to Arizona and finding out what they put in Josh Dobbs' water, because he has got the toughest matchup of week 4, traveling to San Francisco to take on the 3-0 49ers, coming off a Thursday night football game. So they got extended rest and extended time to prepare for Arizona. They saw the way they played Sunday. I'm going to try to keep it short. We got 3 games to get to here. We're going kind of long. San Francisco's heavily outmatching this team on both sides of the ball. I would expect Arizona's offense to look as bad as they've looked because they're overperforming right now. And I do not see it happening against this San Fran defense. Give me the 49ers big.
Yeah. After what I did last week on the preview, I pretty much just counted Arizona out and went straight with Dallas, and I left it at that. I'm going to do the same thing because I don't care. I'm going with San Francisco.
Goodness. All right, then. I will, say that, Arizona give you your credit. A lot of people around the league counting you out, but just any other team than this team would have been nice on the schedule. I mean, that's the truth. That's the honest. You look at y'all's roster versus theirs, and it's just honestly a lot more money is spent on the other team. And I just think, this will probably be the ugliest game of Joshua Dobbs' Cardinals run, I guess you can say. But just Brock Purdy's been playing great. Brock Purdy's shut me up, and I expect Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, and if Brandon Ayuk is back, I know he was out last week. I'm not too sure if he's going to be there. And he's there, but I'm saying they're probably not going to play him because they don't need him, because honestly, I think the 49ers defense could play maybe both sides, and they would probably still win this game.
Yeah, that's a complete unit, and like you said, tough matchup to pull. But good thing is Arizona got their impressive win last week. That's good for that franchise. I mean, they're playing inspired, so good on them for getting a win last week at home. Uh, we'll move on to, good God, I'm
The
dreading
best
this
Sunday night
already.
game.
Yeah, Sunday night game, Chiefs at Jets. Can I get this out the way now? I believe the Jets are scheduled for like 5 more
Yep.
primetime games. Please God, someone interfere and flex this team out. I do not want to watch this team on national TV on a routinely basis, especially this offense. Now, if Aaron Rodgers was taking snaps, throwing to Garrett Wilson, me and Christian would love to tune in and watch this team. But you already see of all the back and forth between reports now. The defense is at a peak heat with Saleh because he's keeping Zach Wilson in. I can't blame him because the guy's still looking really bad. So I don't know what more I can say about the Jets offense other than how bad it is and how much longer we're going to have to watch it before we see a QB change. And then now you're going against the Chiefs, who have put up 40-something last week against Chicago. They've got things rolling again. I can't see this one staying close for more than a half. Give me Kansas City big.
Yeah. Former MVP, former Denver Bronco, Trevor Simeon's going to come in. I think he's going to really elevate this offense and just put them over the top. New York Jets, Super Bowl contenders. I mean, they're ready to take the next step here, and I think it's going to start Sunday Night Football against the Kansas City Chiefs. I just can't continue. Kansas City, man. The Jets have been a disaster. I think they're going to continue to be a disaster as long as Zach Wilson's taking snaps. Patrick Mahomes and company, big.
God almighty. I'm going to keep it short, man, with this one little, off the rails. Just, I hate seeing Brian loving this as much as he is, man. Just, I wouldn't say a man was praying for somebody's downfall, but God, if Brian wasn't praying for some downfall, I don't think we would have knew. But, I seen
Man,
this,
I wish
like I
Rodgers
said.
stay healthy, but it's
Nah, man, I don't. God, like I said, Monday I looked at some of these games, why that night game's on. I seen this, and I, gotta be kidding me. Is what I said. I don't want the Chiefs to win. Chargers fan. Then I seen this on the schedule, and I think, just me saying that. Then Brian went on his, they got their new quarterback who definitely will be entering this game at some point. I would say. Last time I was on the pod, I went down the whole Cam Newton, Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan, and then they went that route. So just, me right now, just I'm staying far away from the offense on that team. Love the defense, but just the offense is not it right now. But, the last thing I will say, I thought this would maybe be, a game I would tune in just to see maybe, Taylor Swift, and then I realized it was at New York. So even that let me down. So I just think, it's the Chiefs winning. I guess I'll see Kelsey and his mustache doing a lot of touchdown dances.
Yeah, man, that's the only thing getting any type of ratings is a Taylor Swift appearance in New York, honestly, because I do not expect many people to tune in to watch any Zach Wilson-led offense. We've spent enough time on that. We'll move on to our final game of the week, and it's thankfully just one Monday Night Football game this week. I kind of got tired of having 2 on simultaneously and trying to keep up with that after work. So we've got one this week, Seattle traveling to New York. Seattle really bouncing back after the poor week 1 performance. I thought they've looked really strong on the offensive side of the ball. The secondary has obviously been a key worry these first 3 weeks, but they've established Kenneth Walker in the ground game and the partnership with his RB2. Was it Chardonnay? How do you say that, Chardonnay?
Zach Charbonnet, yeah.
Charbonnet, yeah. That's a good 1-2 punch. And Gino's just a great leader. We haven't seen much from Jackson Smith and Jigba yet, but I saw a clip, if anyone else hadn't seen, of him really prepping this guy up and telling him he's a good football player. Like, he's about to make big plays. I think he's due for that. I think this could be the breakout game for him because Seattle's got other weapons that they can get the ball to whenever they want. I think they make a concerted effort to establish JSN as a threat in the passing game this week. And New York's not a bad football team, but minus Saquon, I think they're a little outmatched here. So I've got Seattle taking the road Monday Night Football victory.
Yeah, Saquon is listed as questionable for this game. They said he does have a chance to play in this football game. Although, if I'm New York, I would probably want to hold him out, just come back next week ready to go. And I'm going to go Seattle here. A lot of it is what you talked about, Chase. They got the ground game going. I expect as long as that ground game's going, it's just going to make the passing game better. It's going to open up opportunities for Jackson Smith and Jigba. I'm right there with you, same exact page. However, I would like to see the Giants do something offensively, just to kind of see, because they've been kind of puzzling to me so far this year. Arizona, first half, just completely didn't show up. Dallas just dominated them, and then Arizona freaking beat Dallas. So, I mean,
yeah,
I'm curious to see what the Giants are at this point, even without
still
if
the
Saquon Barkley doesn't
receivers.
play.
Yeah,
But
still the receiver room for me. Like Jalen Hyatt didn't even get a target last week. Why are you spending? I know it was a 3rd-round pick, but this receiving room has been depleted for a long time. You need someone to step up. I'm not sure why he's not getting the chances. So that's all I'm looking for on their side of the ball.
they brought in Darren Waller, man.
Yeah, I mean, who
Yeah,
knows?
I'm gonna go Seattle here, man. Geno Smith and company.
Yeah, I'm gonna start on the Giants side. Just I'll go back to the Jets thing. I thought their quarterback room after Aaron was something bad, but Jesus Christ, the closest thing to that is when Barkley is not on the Giants roster, and you look at this running back room. So just with that being said, if Barkley does play, that's a big boost, but it's just not going to be enough for the Seattle's passing offense. And now, I mean, they're one of these teams that have a two-headed monster in the running back room. We seen that last week, and I mean, both of them had great games. I know Kenneth, goodness, had a bigger game, starting and getting his touches, and I think it was like a 2-3 touchdown game. So I just expect them to definitely go back to the running game if that's probably, later in the game. But I just think they're going to open it up, pass and lead this team and get, Smith to Jigba involved more. I think it's going to be this week kind of thing. And then after that, just let these running backs take over this game. But just, God, the Giants, I don't know really what to say about the team. Don't like your starting quarterback, overpaid, and now you're going to sit here in week 5 and more than likely be 1-3.
Yeah, it's tough look for New York. I mean, that week 1 performance really left a sour taste in our mouths with that football team, and they haven't done much to counter argue that so far. That said, we're going to wrap it up here, guys, unless you got any closing statements for either of y'all. We got some great week 4 matchups coming up with Buffalo, Miami probably being the headliner, that 1 o'clock matchup. But all said, we're happy that we're all 3 back together. Christian had a nice and deserved vacation, so happy to have him back talking football with us. As always, like, share, subscribe, all of our YouTube shorts, TikToks, your Apple podcast feeds, your Spotify podcast feeds, anything, any place you see our stuff, please like, share, subscribe, tell a friend. Thank you for joining us for the Week 4 preview. We will be back Sunday just ahead of the Sunday Night Football game, recapping all the 1 o'clock and the 9:30 London game, as well as the 4:25 game and the Thursday Night Football game coming up tomorrow night. We'll have all that recap for you Sunday night, and hope you join us for that. Until then, we will see you next time. Peace out.
Peace.